Linda looked at me across the lawyer's desk. Calm, steady, almost gentle. Then, she said, "Daniel, Mom did not leave you anything." For a moment I could not breathe, because I am the one who has been sending money, month after month. I never imagined that the sister who promised to take care of everything would one day erase me. Before I tell you the whole story, subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. I sat there in that office, still hearing Linda's voice in my head, even after she stopped talking. But to understand why her words cut so deep, I need to take you back, long before this moment. Back to the way our family always worked. I grew up in a small town outside Raleigh. Mom raised us with steady hands and quiet rules. Linda was 3 years older, the type who stepped forward before anyone asked. She organized the school forms, the dentist visits, the church events. I used to think it was kindness. Maybe part of it was, but even as kids, she liked being the one in control. She liked being the one people depended on. I never fought her on that. I was the quieter one, the steady one, the one who fixed things around the house and tried not to cause trouble. And somehow, without either of us saying it out loud, those roles followed us into adulthood. When Mom started slowing down, losing track of small things, repeating stories, Linda told me she would handle everything. She said it like it was a burden, but also like she expected me to nod and thank her. And I did. I really did appreciate her stepping in. I was working long hours as an appliance technician, driving all over Wake County, trying to keep my own bills straight. So when she said she'd take care of Mom's appointments, her medications, the paperwork, Linda told me exactly what she needed every month. The amount sounded reasonable, something I could manage. So I set up the transfers, steady as clockwork, month after month. I thought it was going to Mom's care. I believed every word Linda said. Why wouldn't I? Back then, I thought we were a team. I thought we were doing right by our mother together. And for a while, she'd sit with her hands folded in her lap, smiling at me like she always did. Some days she was sharp, asking about Evan, asking about my jobs that week. Other days she drifted, repeating a question 2 or 3 times. But she still knew me. She still reached for my hand. She still said my name with that warm, gentle tone only a mother has. But slowly, things started shifting. Linda became the filter through which everything passed. Mom's too tired today. She's napping. The doctor came earlier, so it's better if you skip this week. Little excuses, soft excuses, the kind that are hard to argue with because they sound caring. She started organizing appointments without telling me. She changed medications without asking for my input. She coordinated everything with the nursing home staff, and then told me the summaries later neatly packaged like a report. I trusted her. I kept trusting her, because that's what I had always done. But inside, something small began to itch, a feeling, a question I pushed away. Maybe it was the way she spoke over me during conversations. Maybe it was how she brushed off my concerns with a tight smile. Maybe it was the tired look in Mom's eyes during my last few visits, as if she wanted to say something she couldn't quite shape into words. Then the waves came, one after another. The first hit on an ordinary Tuesday. Linda moved Mom into a nursing home without telling me. I found out only after the fact, through a short clipped voicemail. "Daniel, it was necessary. I'll explain later." The second wave followed, heavier. The money I had been sending every month. It wasn't being used the way Linda claimed. I saw the first hint of it on a billing statement she accidentally forwarded. Something inside me tightened, but I told myself not to jump to conclusions. And then the third wave knocked the breath out of me. Mom called me one evening, her voice soft, confused. She asked, "Honey, why haven't you visited me in so long?" I froze, because Linda had told me I had already visited the week before. That night, something in me shifted. A quiet line crossed. Trust, the foundation of our whole family, began to crack. I did not sleep much after that call from Mom. Her voice kept coming back to me. Soft, confused, almost hurt. And I kept hearing Linda's earlier words in my head, the ones that did not match anything Mom was saying. The next morning I drove out to the nursing home. Number 5. The Citigrade octufied the Citig. The number 500 subscribed to the tenuman. The building sat behind a row of old pine trees. Quiet still. The kind of place that should feel peaceful. But the moment I walked through the doors, something felt wrong. Linda was already there. She stepped into my path like she had been waiting. "Daniel, you should have called first," she whispered, as if my presence was an inconvenience. I told her I needed to see Mom. Linda gave me a thin smile and said Mom was resting and should not be disturbed. Her voice was soft. But something about it was too soft. Too prepared. As we talked, I noticed a stack of folders on the counter behind her. When she saw me glance toward them, she shifted her body to block my view. It was subtle but clear. She did not want me to see what was inside. That was the first moment I felt it. The sense that Linda was hiding something. And once you notice something like that, you start noticing everything. Mom had always been open about her life, especially her finances. She grew up during hard times and believed in teaching us to plan, but now whenever I gently asked if she needed anything, she would look down at her hands. Her voice would get small, as if someone had told her not to talk. And Linda watched her closely, too closely. At first I told myself I was imagining it. That stress was making me jumpy. But every time I visited, Linda positioned herself between me and Mom, physically and emotionally. She answered questions for her. She cut conversations short. She hovered. And Mom, she looked at me with eyes that said something wasn't right, but she couldn't say the words. One afternoon I got a message from Linda telling me the nursing home was temporarily closed because of renovations. Something about her wording felt off, so I drove there anyway. The place was open. Everything was running as usual. When I walked in, a nurse recognized me and gave a warm smile, the kind you give someone you haven't seen in a while. She asked if I had been out of town. I told her Linda said the home was closed. The nurse's smile faded fast. She leaned in a little, lowering her voice. And she told me Linda had instructed the staff not to share Mom's medical files with me unless she approved it. I stood there, stunned. I could feel my pulse in my hands. Linda had taken over control of Mom's care so slowly, so quietly, that I didn't even realize how far she had gone. On my way home, the whole drive felt heavy, pine trees passing on both sides, that long stretch of highway, and my mind racing through every detail I had ignored. I decided to stop by Mom's old house. Linda kept the place tidy, but something in the air felt stale, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I walked into Mom's room just to feel close to her. The closet door was slightly open. Inside the top drawer of her nightstand, tucked under a stack of scarves, I found a folded piece of paper. A letter. The handwriting was Mom's. Unmistakable. "Daniel, if you're reading this, there's something you need to know." That was all. The entire bottom half had been torn away. Not a clean rip, but deliberately removed. I stood there, the air still, the house silent, and for the first time, the unease I'd been carrying turned into certainty. Something was wrong. Not small, not accidental. Something big, something intentional, something Linda did not want me to find, and whatever it was only the beginning. I drove home with that torn letter in my pocket, feeling its weight the whole way. It was just half a page, but it felt heavier than anything I had carried in years. Mom had tried to tell me something, and someone had made sure I would not see the rest. By the time the sun set, I knew I could not ignore the truth anymore. I had to talk to Linda. She answered her door with that same soft smile she always used, the one that made people think she was harmless. But when she looked at me, the smile did not reach her eyes. "Daniel, it's late," she whispered. "Is everything all right?" I told her I found Mom's letter. Just like that, her expression tightened, barely noticeable, but I saw it. She asked where I found it. I told her. She stared at me for a long second, too long, then said Mom probably started writing something she forgot about. Her tone was gentle, calm, the kind a person uses when they want you to stop asking questions. But I pushed back. I asked her why Mom would say, "There's something you need to know." Linda's shoulders lifted slightly as if she was shrugging off a small annoyance. "Mom's memory isn't good, Daniel. She says confusing things all the time." I should have stopped the conversation there, but something in me cracked open. All the little pieces I had ignored were finally lining up. So I told her what the nurse said. About the files. About the restrictions. Linda's voice sharpened, not loud but tight. That was a misunderstanding. You always jump to the worst conclusions. It was the first time in months I heard her lose that soft, controlled tone. And it told me something. She was worried. I didn't accuse her of anything. I only asked to see the financial statements, the ones tied to the money I had been sending for Mom's care. Her answer was simple and quick. No. Just that word. Not softened, not explained. A wall. She said some documents were misplaced and others were still being organized. She spoke like a person who hoped I would accept her explanation the way I always did. But I didn't. Something inside me had shifted. A quiet anger. The kind that builds over time. The kind that comes from being misled by someone you trusted. Later that week, when I tried to log into the online portal the nursing home used for billing, the password didn't work. I tried again. It rejected me. The third attempt locked the account. Linda had changed the access. And with that, the last bit of doubt in my mind was gone. I drove back to Mom's nursing home to see her. When I stepped into her room, she was sitting upright, her hands folded in her lap. She looked tired, but when she saw me, she smiled like she always did. I sat beside her. We talked about Evan, about his job in Denver, about how he still tried to FaceTime when he could. Then her voice dropped, barely above a whisper. Linda gets upset when I call you too much, she said. I felt my chest tighten. I asked her why. She looked toward the door, the way a child does when they think someone might overhear. Her voice trembled. She says, you're too busy for me. I closed my eyes for a moment. That was the lie Linda had been feeding me. But she was feeding Mom a different one. And then Mom said something that made my breath catch. Don't let them take everything from you, Daniel. Her voice broke. She reached for my hand, her fingers cool and shaking. Before I could ask what she meant, the door opened. Linda walked in with that same soft expression. But when she saw me holding Mom's hand, something flashed across her face. Mom fell silent instantly. Her eyes dropped. Her shoulders curled inward. Linda stood at the foot of the bed and said she needed to go over new paperwork. She spoke in that gentle voice she used in front of other people. The voice that made her seem thoughtful, patient, devoted. But I saw something else now. I saw the control, the pressure, the way Mom's fear rose the second Linda entered the room. As we left the nursing home, I felt something shift inside me again. Not fear this time. Not confusion. Resolve. Whatever Linda was doing, whatever she had planned, I needed help. Real help. And that's the night I decided I would no longer let her handle everything on her own. I was going to find out the truth, no matter how much she tried to hide. The morning I walked into Attorney Collins's office, I felt a heaviness in my chest I could not shake. The kind of heaviness that sits in your bones and makes every step feel harder than it should. Linda was already there when I arrived. She was sitting in a chair by the window, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her back was straight, her posture perfect. The way people hold themselves when they already believe they've won. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and for a moment I thought I saw that old smile, the one that had always made me trust her. But it didn't reach her eyes. Collins greeted me politely and gestured toward a chair. I sat down, feeling a tight knot in my stomach. He looked at me over his glasses. Daniel, are you ready? I swallowed. I nodded. Because even though I felt the weight of doubt and anger, I had to see this through. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Collins cleared his throat and opened the envelope with the new will. The paper slid out slowly. White crisp, official. And the first words hit me like a hammer. My name was not there. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't at the bottom. It simply did not exist. Every month of support I had sent, every call, every visit I had tried to make, erased. All of it, wiped away with the stroke of a pen. Collins read the will aloud. Everything is to Linda Hayes. All personal property, bank accounts, and the home are to be transferred to her name. Daniel Hayes is not included. I stared at the paper. I felt my chest tighten. I felt my throat close. I could not breathe for a moment. And then Linda, with that calm, controlled voice, said, "This is what Mom wanted. You've been too absent." I froze. My mind refused to form a coherent response. Absence. Absence. I had sent money every single month. I had called, visited, every chance I could. And she said I was absent. Collins shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He looked like he understood the weight of the moment, but was unsure how to intervene. Linda, however, seemed completely at ease, as if the words were routine, as if she had rehearsed this many times before. Then Collins reached for another envelope. He paused, looking at Linda. Your sister submitted a recording, Daniel. You requested we play it and she wanted it reviewed first. Linda nodded, small and polite. Collins placed the small device on the table. A faint click, and then Mom's voice filled the room. Daniel, if you are hearing this, I want everything to go to Linda. She has been helping. Her voice trembled. It sounded frail, unsure, fragile, the way a person might read someone else's script for them. The words were unnatural, the pauses too deliberate. It was clear she had been coached. I stared at Linda. Her face remained calm, but something about her hands, the way they pressed together, the slight tremor, betrayed a fraction of tension beneath that surface control. I felt my knees weaken. My head felt light. I wanted to shout. I wanted to accuse her of every single lie, every manipulation, every hidden action she had taken. But no words came. Only a tight, burning silence. Collins turned to me, his tone gentle. I know this is difficult, Daniel. But before we take the next steps, I need you to take a moment. I tried to breathe, tried to focus, tried to keep my hands from shaking. Linda, meanwhile, leaned back in her chair. The air between us was thick. She looked victorious, and yet her eyes were not completely steady. Something had slipped, something small but unmistakable, a crack in the armor she had built for herself. The lawyer closed the envelope. Daniel, I know this is unfair. We need to review your options. But I want you to understand the gravity of the current will. Your sister holds full control as of now. Control. That word echoed in my head. It wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about the house. It was about Mom, about the years of love and trust I had poured into her life, now used as evidence that I was absent. I looked at Mom's face in my memory, her gentle hands, her warm eyes, the letters she had written me, the moments I had cherished. And I felt broken, not only by the betrayal, but by the realization that the person I had trusted most had planned every step, every document, every excuse, every manipulation. She had orchestrated it carefully. I could feel tears gathering, burning at the edges of my eyes. A slow, deep ache settled into my chest. Not anger, not yet, not fully, but a sorrow so raw it made my hands tremble. I swallowed hard. I breathed in. I knew one thing with certainty: I could not let this be the end. For the first time, I felt a fire inside me, a quiet, steady determination. Not for revenge, not for anger, but for truth, because Mom deserved it. I deserved it, and someone had to make sure the lies could not stand in the light. That day, in that small office, under the cold fluorescent lights, I realized the fight had only just begun, and I was ready to see it through. I left Collins's office that day feeling hollow. The weight of Linda's betrayal pressed on me with every step. I drove home in silence, the streets of Raleigh stretching out like a quiet reminder that nothing felt right. That night I tried to call Evan. He picked up on the second ring, cheerful as always. "Hey, Dad. How's it going?" I forced a smile into my voice. "Good. Good," I said. Then almost casually I asked if he had talked to Grandma recently. Evan hesitated. Yeah, actually. She tried to tell me something the other day," he said, his voice low. "What do you mean?" I asked, leaning forward, even though he couldn't see me. She whispered. "About her blue box," he said. "Don't let them hide my blue box," she said. I didn't know what she meant, but I remembered. My heart skipped a beat. The blue box. I had seen it before, tucked away in the corner of Mom's old bedroom, behind the dresser, hidden from sight. Linda had always insisted it was old, clutter, not important. But now, I realized it was the one thing Mom had trusted me to find. The next morning, I went back to the old house. The air inside felt heavy, like it had been holding its breath. I made my way to Mom's bedroom. The dresser sat quietly against the wall, its drawers neatly arranged. I knelt down and reached behind it. There it was, a small blue wooden box, tightly locked, but solid and real. My hands shook as I carried it to the kitchen table. I looked around, making sure no one else was watching. I fumbled with the lock for a few minutes. Then with a quiet click it opened. Inside I found the original will. The paper was crisp, legal, official, and I could see it immediately. My name, right there, equal with Linda. Everything Mom had ever intended, preserved in that single document. I pulled out the rest of the contents carefully. A handwritten note fell to the table. I unfolded it slowly, the edges worn with age. Daniel, if you're reading this, your sister wants to keep everything. But this is my real decision. Give this to Collins. I felt my chest tighten. Relief, joy, fear, every emotion collided in a single instant. Mom had trusted me. Mom. She had left me the key, the truth. All of Linda's schemes, all her manipulation, could not erase this. I called Collins immediately. His voice carried calm authority over the phone. Daniel, if you have the original will, this changes everything. Bring it to my office. Bring it to my office. Bring it to my office. We'll get it validated immediately. Driving to his office, I held the blue box on my lap. It felt heavier than the betrayal I had endured, heavier than Linda's false calm, but it also felt like a shield, a promise that truth could not be silenced. When I handed Collins the will, he examined it carefully, comparing it with the other documents. His eyes lifted, calm but resolute. This is clear, he said. The original will is legally binding. Your inheritance must be shared equally. I exhaled slowly. Finally, the balance had been restored. I thought about Linda, her face as she realized her plan could be undone. I thought about Mom, her faith in me, her quiet wisdom even when her memory failed. And I thought about Evan, whose sharp eyes had caught what I could not. I did not feel triumph. I did not feel glee. Only relief. And a deep, quiet satisfaction that justice, in its simplest form, had been restored. That evening, I went to see Mom. She was sitting in her favorite chair, the sunlight falling across her lap. I knelt beside her and leaned in close. I found it, Mom, I whispered. Her hand, frail and thin, reached out to squeeze mine. Her eyes, clear for a fleeting moment, held a soft, peaceful smile. I felt her trust, her pride, and the relief I carried, now mingled with hers. We sat together in silence for a long time. Just the two of us, the way it should have been, all along. And for once I felt like the chaos of betrayal had been washed away, leaving only truth and love. The next few days passed quietly, almost peacefully, though the weight of what had happened still lingered in the air. Linda had lost control of the accounts, the house, and Mom's care decisions. She did not fight openly. Her usual calm authority was gone, replaced by something smaller, defensive, unsure. Collins confirmed everything officially. The original will was valid. Mom's intentions were honored. I would share the inheritance equally with Linda, just as Mom had wanted. It was simple, legal, and final. I did not feel the need for revenge. I had never wanted to hurt my sister, only to see the truth restored. The years of trust and support, the quiet sacrifices I had made, they mattered more than any confrontation. Justice, in its quietest form, was enough. That evening I went to visit Mom again. She was in her favorite chair, the late afternoon sunlight spilling across her lap. Her eyes brightened when she saw me. I knelt beside her, careful not to disturb her comfort, and whispered softly, "I found it, Mom." Her hand reached for mine, weak but deliberate. She squeezed gently. A peaceful smile crossed her face, the kind that said she felt safe, that she knew everything was right again. I sat there with her for a long while, just holding her hand, letting the silence fill the room. No words were necessary. Her trust had been restored, and with it a quiet closure settled over both of us. And as I left her side that evening, I thought of all of you listening. All the people who have felt the sting of betrayal or the fear of being left out, of being erased from the life you helped sustain. If your sibling hid the truth about your parents' legacy, what would you do? Would you fight quietly, look for the facts, or confront them head-on? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the next story. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Because sometimes the truth is hidden,